Alright, what's up, y'all? This is part 2 of my expose and bury video. On this video, I'm going to talk about, how he's, got in office practicing taqiyya, which is when a Muslim pretends to be Christian in order to advance the agenda. And it starts by going back to the fact that his grandparents, were communists. And a lot of people don't know that. They went to this church called the Little Red Church. And the Little Red Church basically was based in Chinese communism. They also practiced Wicca, or Wiccan, which is witchcraft. They were basically trying to be a witch and a warlock. Also, Obama's mother hated Jesus. So, he got his disdain for Christianity honest. There's a video of him on YouTube, I think it's from 1995, where he's in a church and he's asking the congregation what part of the Bible should govern our public policy. And he says, is it Deuteronomy, which suggests that slavery is okay? Is it Leviticus, which suggests stoning your child if they stray from the faith? Or is it the Sermon on the Mount, an idea so radical that our Defense Department wouldn't survive its application? Then he said, you folks haven't been reading your Bibles. So, basically, when he said that, we know the Sermon on the Mount came from Jesus. So he basically was calling Jesus a radical. There's other times where he was at the National Prayer Breakfast and, he talked about the Crusades and Constantinople and made it seem like Christians were just out there killing Muslims when the Crusades happened as a reaction to Christians being murdered back at that time. He also had a prayer mat inside the White House. He would observe Ramadan. He would, he's actually suspended the day of prayer in the White House. He would talk about growing up in Muslim countries and hearing the call of the Azan at dawn and how beautiful it was. He speaks perfect Arabic. Most people don't know that, but you should. So, he also, when he would go on tours of different universities, such as Georgetown and Villanova and those different Catholic universities, he would make them cover up their Bible scriptures and their pictures of Jesus and their crosses and whatnot. And, what Christian person, would do that? If you're a believer in Jesus, why would you cover up Bible scriptures? Why would you cover up pictures of Jesus, even though those aren't real representations of Jesus? But that's not the point. Why would you cover up different religious symbols? So basically, Obama's point, like Bridget Gabriel stated years ago, was he was trying to create a caliphate. Now, I don't know if he thought he was going to be the imam or he was looking for one, but, a lot of people don't know that. And when he released, I think it was 5 or 6 people from Gitmo, that was basically the beginning of the formation of ISIS, or ISIL as he calls them. And he gave them $1.6 billion upon their release. A lot of people forget that, but people do know about him giving Iran the $10 billion and the Ayatollah Khamenei coming on TV still saying that America was the great Satan after we gave them $10 billion. So, back to, his Muslim ties, his wedding ring, a lot of people don't know, has an inscription on it called the Shahada Allah, which is an affirmation all Muslims must make that there is no God but Allah. And actually, he had the ring before he met Michelle, and he still wears that as his wedding band. There's plenty of videos about it, from years ago where they show the inscription up close. So, and basically the men who served as his so-called father and stepfather were both Muslims. So you come from a woman who was a Marxist, who was in a cult, the cult of the Rising Sun, and along with Loretta Fuddy. And Loretta Fuddy is important because she worked for the Hawaii Department of Health. She was one of the only people to ever allegedly see his birth certificate. Well, she died in a plane crash. And what was strange about her death is she was the only person on that plane that died. And somebody literally said they looked at her, she was fine. They looked away and looked back and she was dead. So, that was probably a way to keep her mouth shut, because somebody went into that vault and put a birth certificate there when there wasn't one there like the day before. And what the purpose was is because there's a lawyer named Orly Tates who was bringing a lawsuit against Obama for not being a natural citizen on behalf of some people in the military. And that was literally supposed to happen the day after the alleged Osama bin Laden killing, which was not real. So you have that situation where, bin Laden had basically been on ice. Dr. Stephen R. Pachitnik, said, and years ago, and basically Harrison Ford's character in Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games, the Jack Ryan character, is based off of Stephen Pachitnik. He was Deputy Secretary of State under 5 different presidents. He basically said that bin Laden died December 16th of 2001 of Marfan's disease. And if you don't know what Marfan's disease is, it's a disease that degenerates all the connective tissue in your body. And if you know anything about connective tissue, your organs are made of connective tissue. And, it normally affects people who are really tall. And, if I'm not mistaken, bin Laden was like 6'6" or 6'7" or something like that. He also was in the end stages of kidney failure in the late 90s. And, you can't survive, for just endless periods of time in the end stages of kidney failure. So you have that. But, then you also had Benazir Bhutto, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who said in an interview in 2007 that Omar Sheikh had killed bin Laden. And a couple days later, she was beheaded for saying that. So, there were factions around the country, MI5, MI6, the Mossad, the Kremlin, KGB, all these people were in cahoots in protecting Obama and his quest to bring down America and turn us into a Muslim country. He's very anti-colonialism based on his father's hate for the British for colonizing Kenya. A lot of people, don't know that. Also, they're not even sure if, Stanley Ann is actually his mother. There's a lady who said that she forged his birth certificate on behalf of the Medellin cartel, who said that she was his half-sister. Now, that picture of him from high school when I believe he's graduating and he's hugging a lady, her name is Rita. I can't think of her last name right now, but I'll find out. And so she definitely knows him. So she said that basically his father was white and his mother was black. And, I haven't heard anything from her recently. But, there's that. And, of course, we know that Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Mike Zullo was working on his birth certificate. And Mike Zullo is somebody who voted for Obama. So they can't use the excuse of, white people trying to bring him down. And basically, at the end of the investigation, they found out that Johanna Omni was the person whose birth certificate they basically used to forge Barack's, birth certificate. Forensic document examiners went over it. There was one guy who said all the letters on there were different sizes, which is impossible, which meant every single letter would have been typed with a different typewriter, which we know is impossible. The deputy registrar stamp, where it says the deputy registrar, Alan T. Onaka, the word the is spelled T-X-E. The A in Alvin, has a smiley face in it. They have Barack Sr. listed as being African when African is not a race, it's a nationality. And also it was against federal statute before 1970 to refer to a black person as anything other than Negro, and that was for black and Hispanics. And Kenya didn't win its freedom from British rule to 1963, and Barry was born in 1961. So you have that. You have JPEG, pixelation, kerning, all these type of things that, can't appear on a document. Then it's different levels, different layers. There's 9 different layers, and if you ever photoshopped your head onto somebody else's body, that creates 2 layers of a picture. You could strip away your head being on the person's body. That's the second layer, and then the original picture will be the first layer. And so, you have all that. Like I said, he was, recruited by Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn, who were Weather Underground people who wanted America to be a communist nation. And I guess, communism must go hand in hand with Islam in some fashion for them to pick him as their go-to person to create this. Obama is almost like a computer-generated person. He came out of nowhere, and a lot of his correct characteristics matched the Antichrist. That's why a lot of people thought he was the Antichrist. But he definitely has the spirit of Antichrist. But he's not the Antichrist. I believe he's trying to position himself for the head of the UN. But if Donald Trump has anything to say so about it, it won't happen. But I also touched on in the last video how Obama's running a shadow government. Like I said, he's the only president that stayed behind in D.C. Every other president, when they left office, they left. They went back to their home states. George Bush Jr. is back in Texas on a farm, painting pictures and, keeping his mouth shut for the most part. And all the other living presidents, are too, Bill and Hillary, they don't count. They're both idiots as well. But, Obama basically has still Loretta Lynch and many other people, these Strucken Page and Bruce Adeli Orr and, Steele and all these people were working at, his request or his, under his rule. And if you noticed, when Trump would do rallies, Obama was basically almost mirroring him all over the country, doing speaking engagements and rallies and trying to take credit for his economy and, all this other nonsense. Because, like on Axe Truth, we would always make fun of Obama barely getting 500 people opposed to Trump having 20,000 in the stadium and another 30,000 outside watching, and the massive requests for tickets and, channels like Diamond and Silk and many other channels screaming his rallies for those who, can't watch it on TV because they don't have cable or whatever. But, this is, what they're doing. I don't know if they're who they're trying to position to try to be president. I definitely thought they would have tried to run Eric Holder or someone against Trump in 2016. I know he definitely didn't want Hillary because they really can't stand each other. But he has that problem with the front he has to put up being part of the DNC, because the whole DNC is basically funded with Clinton Foundation money. So he's in debt to her. They're all in debt to her, from the money she stole from Haiti, from the money from Uranium One. Uranium One was allowed by him because he was Hillary's boss, so he signed off on it. Something else people don't understand, that when he was president, people were so focused on oil and different things, and what they weren't focused on was the water. What they were doing was taking clean water and shipping it to China. And a lot of different families, like the Bush family, were invested in water aquifers. So, clean water was supposed to be the next hustle. And then you see in Flint, they have the problem with lead in the water. Obama's EPA hid that for 6 months before it even became public. And he still didn't fix it because he had no intention on fixing it. So there was a lot of things he wanted to do that luckily he wasn't allowed to do while he was in office. And, glad that Cocaine Mitch held up him getting another Supreme Court justice. That was a good thing, holding that up until the election was over. Using the Joe Biden rule, which is hilarious because everybody was upset when they used Joe Biden's own rule to put that into effect. So, there's just, a lot of shady shit he was doing. Like I said, he's a very evil person, a very evil spirit. I almost was believing he was the Antichrist because of, how I felt just hearing him speak. I would hear him speak, and he is big on MK Ultra and MK Naomi. A lot of people don't talk about MK Naomi, but that's also a mind control plan, and he would use predictive programming and basically had a crowd in a trance while he was talking nonsense and pushing NWO agendas and telling us we were too stupid to govern our lives and that our children are a part of this collective. And he would have Rahm Emanuel saying they could never let a good crisis go to waste, and he was trying to push for a civilian national security force just as powerful as the military. They were trying to get rid of the dollar and turn it into a Mero or SDR, which is a special drawing right, some kind of digital currency. If you see videos of Hitler also had the youth galvanized the same way Obama did, singing stupid songs about him and chanting and, making a little military force. They actually wanted to force American citizens into the military, whether you wanted to be in there or not. He had a bunch of lobbyists in his administration. Rahm Emanuel was a lobbyist, I believe, for Lehman Brothers. You had Eric Geithner for Goldman Sachs. He ended up putting Will Daley, the ex-mayor of Chicago, which we all know is like a mob boss. And also, they purposely ran Rahm Emanuel for mayor when they put Rob Blagojevich in prison, because Blagojevich knew how corrupt they were and where all the bodies were buried. So Rahm Emanuel wasn't even living in Illinois. He shouldn't have been allowed to run. But that was, a big cover-up. But also another topic I want to touch on in this video is there was a lady from Shaker Heights, Ohio, named Susan Daniels, who's a private investigator. And private investigators have some level of police, powered as far as their investigations go. And she was hired by some military people to look into Obama. And she was one of the first people to discover he had a fraudulent Social Security number, on top of him having the forged birth certificate. And his Social Security number was tied into a dead man in Connecticut. And I guess the Social Security Administration sets a block of your first 3 numbers is designated, per state. And, Obama never lived in Connecticut, so he shouldn't have had that number. And, a lot of people would try to say that was a smoke screen to hide his information from the public, but he'd been using this number since 1977. So, they can't say that it's a smoke screen. And she put the number out there because apparently when you are using a fraudulent Social Security number, the Social Security information doesn't have to take any steps to protect it. So you had her information about the fake Social Security number. And you also have Albert Hendershot, who does something called skip tracing. And what skip tracing is When you're trying to collect a debt, you skip trace, I guess, to figure out where these people are and how to get their information in order to send out the request for payment. And what he found out is he found like 57 properties in Illinois that had 3 names on them: Barack Obama, Michelle Robinson Obama, and Harrison J. Bonnell. And the strange thing about it was Harrison J. Bonnell and Barack had the same social security number. As I told you in the last video, the real Harrison J. Bonnell died in a mental hospital down the street from Sandy Hook Elementary. So, you have that. So you have the Harrison J. Bonnell alias. Philip J. Berg, who wrote a book called The Obama Era, was also somebody who voted for Obama, who was talking about the fact that even if he was born in Hawaii, it's irrelevant because his U.S. citizenship was renounced when he lived in Indonesia. But he found that a person in 1982 in Skookumchuck, British Columbia, Canada, changed their name from Barack Munir Ubaid to Barack Hussein Obama. There's should only been 2 Barack Hussein Obamas in the world, so who is Barack Munir Ubaid? There's also a possible Barry Malik Shabazz, because there's a faction of people believe that Malcolm X was his real father. There's also Malcolm Stanley Dunham. There's several aliases out there for him. And when Obamacare came out and he went to sign up for Obamacare, and the only requirements is your name, social security number, and occupation, they kept saying they couldn't verify his identity, and one of his secretaries had to do it. So obviously they had to finagle some information. Putting E-Verify, he can't pass the identification because he has the fake social security number. So basically he was a CIA plant, like Bill and Hillary Clinton, like W. Bush, like H.W. Bush, all these people, and all of them being tied to British royalty. Like I was telling everybody, the Merovingian bloodline, the 13th bloodline of the Illuminati, the Merovingian kings. The way Britain kept control in America was through all of the presidents being tied to royal bloodline, which is John Lackland Plantagenet, the king that signed the Magna Carta. They're all great-grandsons of his. I think they also have a female relative named Mildred Reed in comic. But if you can find the chart, it was Bridget Dayaba Young. She was 12 at the time when she did the research that found out they were all related, and then they excluded the 8th president, Martin Van Buren. But Martin Van Buren is a descendant of Dutch royalty, which means he's related anyway. But they all have ties back to Vlad the Impaler, who is Dracula, the French emperor or king or whatever he was, Charlemagne. So they all have kind of a dual loyalty, to the queen. That's why they all run over there and bow to her and constantly want to meet with her and the British Prime Minister, and run to meet the Pope, because, as I said before, I think on a call with Acts, the Catholic Church started Islam, and that was their way of having a stronghold and a way to weasel themselves into Jerusalem. Because as you know, the Temple of the Dome of the Rock is in Jerusalem. Because the Muslims have a presence in the Middle East. Basically, Isaiah, Ishmael, the cousins. One's Jew, one is the lineage of Islam. But I can remember some American soldiers. They went back to Obama they got word to Obama that they found, these Muslim Taliban members, they were raping little boys, and they wanted to stop them. And Obama told them to stand down because that's part of the culture. Like another caller said that, women are for making babies, but little kids are for pleasure. That's what they believe in certain sects of Islam. Not so much the Nation of Islam as far as little boys, as far as I know. But if you've seen Malcolm X, they like little girls. The 5%ers, I'm not sure, but you have Sunni and Shiite and all this stuff, and I believe Obama's people in Africa were Shia. They're either Sunni or Shia, but I believe they're Shia. And, he was raised with a hatred of America that was embedded in him by his parents and his grandparents. And a lot of people don't realize that the day before the election, he went to visit his grandmother. And he slipped out the back door into some kind of alley and disappeared. And, next thing we know, his grandmother had died. So, nothing else was made of it. And probably because she was old. But, I believe there was something nefarious going on there. I mean, there's just a lot of information that continues to come out. I suggest y'all look at a video by Dave Janda, one of Obama's last scandals was, either Operation Hammer or the Hammer Project. And I can't really remember what all it entailed, but I believe it was this whole conspiracy to bring down Trump was involved with Operation Hammer. So, you have the VA scandal, the IRS scandal, Benghazi, just a lot of stuff, that he did as president that people don't talk about. He was I believe Obamacare is a scandal. Then you have the NDAA and Section 1031A, which is indefinite detention, which means you can be detained without charge and held for the rest of your life if they felt like it. And he would not pass the NDAA without that provision in there. And that's the one thing No Name came out and said that was like his good deed for his sorry life, I guess. But you had that, and you had other executive orders where they could take over your transportation, they could take over your food, they could take over your water, they could force you to work against your will and not pay you. You had EO 13603, which Dick Gregory talked about being tantamount to slavery. So you have all those things. A lot of things that Bush left on the table unsigned, Obama came right in and pushed them through. So, what Obama did was make the Patriot Act worse. And, we remember Julian Assange and all the things he was bringing out, and also Edward Snowden, talking about the NSA spying on the American public. And there's something on your phone bill that you get billed for. And I can't remember what name it's under, but it's actually them spying on your phone conversations. So, this video is almost 30 minutes long now, so, I'll look more into that Project Hammer to try to break that down and, possibly make another video. But we got probably another 45 minutes to an hour or so before Axe comes back on for all the night owls. I'll be in the chat mod, being the moderator. Today we was troll free, so that's cool. So shout out to everybody from Axe Truth. Shout out to CAG News Network. All my mods, John Wayne, Roro, Tanya, Jennifer, all y'all. And I don't care if they say this is some Baphomet symbol. I don't believe in the Baphomet. And, if you don't like it, like I said, toasted dick and cheese sandwich for you. I think, one of my next videos is going to, be about the Illuminati and the culture war, like how they're trying to take their symbolism and use it against us with, things they stole from our culture and try to use them against us. All right, till next time, I'm out.